and abuse threaten our most vulnerable. Where the homeless cry for shelter, Lord God, you have given us compassionate leaders to confront these issues. Thank you. Holy One, in a world often divided by political factions, in Minnesota, you have given us united leaders that are diverse in opinion, but unified in mission. Thank you, oh God. Saving God, in a world where each human being wishes to express who they are as individuals, in a complex world where diversity often begets conflict, as we learn to love those who are different than ourselves, you have given us wise people who govern with grace, and we thank you, oh God, blessed Creator. In a state that's abundant with resources, with lakes and farms, trees and prairies, iron and steel abundant, we steward these gifts with your grace, with these, your careful leaders. Giver of wisdom, protect and hold the people of Minnesota. Teach us how to lead with love and rule with compassion and govern with wisdom. And may we use all these gifts and resources so that the whole world may be nourished through your grace and through the gifts we've been given. Bless this gathering. Bless our deliberations. Amen.
Secretary will take the roll.
Senators Abler, Anderson B., Anderson P., Bach, Benson, Bigham, Carlson, Chamberlain, Champion, Clausen, Cohen, Swazinski, Dames, Dibble, Draheim, Dietzick, Eaton, Eichhorn, Eakin, Fischbach, Franzen, Friends, Gazelka, Goggin, Hall, Herr, Hayden, Hoffman, Housley, Ingebrigtsen, Isaacson, Jasinski, Jensen, Johnson, Kent, Kiffmeyer, Klein, Karan, Lane, Lang, Latz, Limmer, Little, Laurie, Marty, Matthews, Miller, Nelson, Newman, Newton, Osmic, Pappas, Pratt, Ralph, Rest, Rosen, Rude, Senjum, Simonson, Sparks, Thomasoni, Torres, Ray, Utke, Weber, Westrom, Uyghur, Wickland.
Quorum is present. Moving to the second order of business, executive and official communications. There is one printed on today's Senate agenda. Please make note of that. Moving to the third order of business, messages from the House. The Secretary will read the message.
Madam President, I have the honor to announce that the House has adopted the recommendation report of the Conference Committee in Senate File 3133 and repassed said bill in accordance with the report of the committee so adopted. Senate File number 3133, a bill for an act relating to public safety requiring the legislative auditor to appoint an information technology auditor to conduct an assessment of MNLARS. Senate File number 3133 is herewith returned to the Senate. Patrick D. Murphy, Chief Clerk, House of Representatives.
There's no action necessary on that message. Moving to the fifth order of business, reports of committee. Senator Latz.
Madam President, pursuant to Rule 21, I object to the reference to Senate File number 235 on page 2 of the agenda.
It will be referred to rules. Thank you. Remaining under reports of committee, fifth order of business, Senator Gazelka.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the committee reports printed in the agenda and addendum be adopted. I don't know if we had to add more to that or not.
Senator Gazelka, with the exception of Senate File 235. On Senator Gazelka's motion, all in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The motion is adopted. Moving on to the sixth order of business, second reading of Senate bills. They are printed on today's agenda and the addendum. The Secretary will read the bills.
Senate Files number 3554, 3527, 3098, 3367, 2746, 2892, 3019, 2465, 2937, 2885, 3198, 3192, and 3536.
Second reading. Moving on to the seventh order of business, the second reading of House bills. They are printed on today's Senate agenda, or addendum, excuse me. The Secretary will read.
House
bills.
File Number 1243.
Second reading. Moving on to the eighth order of business, introduction and first reading of Senate bills. They are printed on today's Senate agenda. They are Senate files 3795 through 3838. They will be referred as indicated. First reading. Moving on to the ninth order of business, motions and resolutions. There are several printed on today's agenda on pages 4 and 5, and one will be read by the Secretary.
Senator Bach moves that the name of Thomasoni be added as co-author to Senate File Number 1274.
Those printed on pages 4 and 5 of the agenda and the one the Secretary read will be taken as one motion. All in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The motion is adopted. Remaining under motions and resolutions, Senator Abler.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that Senate File 2995 be withdrawn to the Committee on Human Services Reform, Finance, and Policy and re-referred to the Committee on Health and Human Services, Finance, and Policy. The acronym for this project is PPEC, which is a way to help individuals who need home care to have a day place to go. It's more suitable for the other committee, and both chairs, including me being one of them, think it's a great idea. Thank you.
On Senator Abler's motion, all in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The motion is adopted. Senator Uyghur.
Madam President, I move that Senate File 3585 be withdrawn from the Committee on State Government Finance and Policy Elections and returned to its author. I am the author.
On that motion, all in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The motion is adopted. There is one Senate Resolution 194, printed on page 5 of today's agenda. It will be referred to rules. Remaining under motions and resolutions, Senator Miller.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the appointment withdrawn from the Committee on Jobs and Economic Growth, Finance, and Policy and placed on the confirmation calendar under Senate Rule 8.2, reported in the Journal for March 21st, 2018, be returned to the committee from which it was withdrawn. And members, this is for the Workers' Compensation Court of Appeals, Patricia Milam.
On that motion, all in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The motion is adopted. Senator Miller.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the appointments withdrawn from the Committee on Jobs and Economic Growth, Finance, and Policy Committee placed on the confirmation calendar under Senate Rule 8.2, reported in the Journal for March 26, 2018, be returned to the committee from which they are withdrawn. Members, this is for the Destination Medical Center, R.T. Ryback, and Susan Park Ranney.
On that motion, all in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The motion is adopted. Remaining under motions and resolutions, Senator Gazelka.
Thank you, Madam President. I designate the following bills be made for special orders for immediate consideration: Senate File 2620 and Senate File 3154.
Senator Rosen on Senate File 2620.
Thank you, Madam President. Senate File 2620, members, is the 2018 Omnibus Pension Bill, which addresses the troubling funding situation for MSRS, PARA, TRA, and St. Paul teachers. Through significant benefit reforms, employee-employer contribution increases, adjustments to retirees' COLA, and critical state funding, the resulting package elevates the funding ratio of all plans to between 90 and 100% funding within 30 years. Just a quick refresher, members. Back in 2016, the pension bill was vetoed by the governor because it contained only one piece of the overall sustainability plans, placing sole responsibility for reducing plan liabilities on current retirees. The 2017 pension bill passed off the Senate floor unanimously without PARA, General, and TRA, but then was later vetoed. The 2018 bill is the result of 3 years of very hard work, collaboration from all stakeholders. Many, many hours of creative thinking, data analysis, and engagement from all parties. During that time, the Pension Commission realized that there were some significant changes necessary because we had a mortality study done, which showed Minnesotans are expected to live 2 years longer than previously assumed. We also realized the investment rate of return was too high and would worsen the deficiencies and funding status of the state's pension plans. The national average right now for the assumed rate of return or discount rate is 7.3%. The state demographer also states that Minnesota's workforce is aging and there is a shortage of younger workers replacing retirees. This means more money leaving the plans for retirees and less will be coming in from the younger Minnesotans. The three largest pension plans continue to run at a contribution deficiency, meaning that the amount of money coming into the plans each year is not enough to pay for the value of the additional benefit accrued for that year for all the active members, plus the annual amount needed to amortize the historic underfunding. A year-over-year deficiency means that the plans continue to decline in funding status. Members, Senate File 2620 reflects a shared sacrifice. All stakeholders were engaged. And I know, members, this is, I could briefly go through the details, but I think this pension bill is so historic and there was so much work that went behind it that I do want to go through a few details. But first, I'd like to say a few thank yous, and one is to the governor and his blue ribbon panel. Actually, a lot of his recommendations are in this Senate File 2620. And I'd like to thank personally the Pension Commission, Ms. Lancheski and Ms. Barth, for their enlightenment on this whole issue. And we had a very engaged commission with Senator Pappas, Senator Senjum, Senator Jasinski, Senator Dames, and Senator Limmer. And then Senator France, our newest member. Thank you very much for all serving on the Pension Commission. It was a lot of Tuesdays, but we did some good work. And I'd also like to have a shout out to the nonpartisan research staff and Amy Strange. They rock, basically. I couldn't have done it without them, and we should be all very grateful for their expertise. Another thank you to the Commissioner France and his team, to the plan directors and their board members, and to the actives and retirees for supporting this sustainability package that, again, is truly a shared sacrifice. Madam President, I do have the A5 amendment I'd like to offer.
Secretary will report the A5
Senator
amendment.
Rosen moves to amend Senate File 2620 as follows, page 139, delete. This is the A5 amendment.
To the amendment, Senator Rosen.
Thank you, Madam President. It's just a change of the date. There was an error from July 30th of 2017 to July 30th of from 18 to 2019. TRA, on the TRA portion, it was a mistake. So we're just adjusting that date.
On the amendment, all in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The amendment is adopted. Further discussion on Senate File 2620.
Thank you, Madam
Senator
President.
Rosen.
Thank you, Madam President. I also just would like to point out, members, the information that you have on the desk. There's a comparison chart of the 30-year employer and state contributions to the 30-year member contribution increases and benefit reforms. The present value of savings is $6.1 billion. $3.4 billion will be immediate once this bill is signed by the governor, and $2.7 billion will be in the future. And there is $2.1 billion in state contributions. The bill will save the state over $6 billion over the next 30 years by lowering and freezing automatic COLA increases. PARA, on two of its plans, though, changes the method to determine the amount of the COLA increases by tying them to COLA increases on federal Social Security pensions. It also is reducing early retirement benefits. They're removed over a 5-year period for MSRS General, PARA General, TRA, and St. Paul. It also postponing the COLAs until normal retirement age, which is 66. And it's also repealing the COLA triggers. It's resetting the amortization period to 30 years, and it's reducing the interest rate on refunds from 4% to 3%. It's also eliminating the deferred augmentation, which was an automatic annual increase in the pension benefit accrued by the former employees. And most importantly, it's reducing the assumption or the discount rate or the assumed rate of return to 7.5%, which was the governor's recommendation. Currently, it's 8.0% for all plans except TRA, and they're at 8.5%. So this takes it down to 7.5% and leaves it there. $2 billion will be put into the plans by increasing employer and employee contributions and providing more money for state aids, excuse me. Some of the other provisions in the bill is additional E-12 education funding, which this bill amends the statute providing for pension adjustment revenue to adding funding intended to reimburse school districts for the employer contribution increases to TRA and St. Paul teachers. Pension adjustment revenue is based on salaries paid to teachers. There's also some very important administrative provisions in there too. And some of the other miscellaneous issues, members, there's a handout that goes through more detail, but there's an issue for Fairview, which MSRS came to this proposal to take down the augmentation rate to 4.5% immediately and then reduce it to 0% after 5 years. Also, there is a provision in there for Eden Prairie, which changes current law to increase the maximum lump sum benefit amount for the Eden Prairie Volunteer Firefighters Relief Fund from $10,000 to $15,000. This is only for Eden Prairie, no other volunteer firefighter organization in the state. So it's not statewide. And there's also another provision just for Austin, not statewide, which permits Austin to allocate a portion of fire state aid to pay employer contributions on behalf of firefighters covered by Para Police of Fire Plan, rather than pay the full amount to the Volunteer Firefighters Relief Association as required under current statute. Senator Ecke, your Clearbrook Fire Department Relief Association is in there. Senator Latz, your TRA coverage election authority for certain employees. Senator France, you're excluding certain St. Paul teachers, city, and school district temporary construction employees who are covered under the Minnesota Laborers Pension Fund. Language is in there. Senator Lang, clarifying your 1992 session law impacting employees of the Swift County Benson Hospital. Senator Miller, authorizing Winona State University employee to elect prospective and retroactive TRA coverage. Senator Tomassoni, you have two pieces in there. You have allowing certain MnDOT employees to purchase service credit and also allowing 2 Mesabi Range Community Tech employees who are not offered an election for TRA rather than remain in the IRAP. And then 2 pieces, Senator Laurie, you're permitting the city of Brook Park to lower the service pension level for its volunteer firefighters. And then 2 very important pieces for St. Cloud State University to purchase service credit from Para and also to repay a refund and elect prospective retroactive TRA coverage. So members, that's pretty much the bill. And I would just like to close by saying enacting pension reform is also crucial to the continuation of the state's positive bond rating as indicated in the warning the state received this past September that the rating agencies are watching Minnesota's pension plans closely and expect pension reform. Senate File 2620, members, has been approved by public employers, employee groups, retirees, the Pension Commission, State Government Committee, and the Governor. And in closing, Madam President, members, the resulting sustainability package that includes these significant benefit reforms and adjustments are the largest in Minnesota pension history. They focus on the element of choice and not the retirees' core benefits. With that, thank you, Madam President, and I ask for your support, members.
Further discussion on Senate File 2620. Senator Pappas.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. I rise to support Senate File 2620 and to urge the body's support. As Senator Rosen said, this legislation represents 3 years of effort by the Legislative Commission on Pension and Retirement to adopt a comprehensive measure to address the financial sustainability of public pensions for over 500,000 active and retired public employees and greatly improves the fiscal condition of all governmental units in this state. This is must-do legislation. Senator Rosen and I have worked on this issue for 3 years. It's been a long, hard path to get here, but this year's bill is much improved. As she mentioned, the bill includes everyone and addresses everything. It's shared responsibility and shared sacrifice. Members, our current situation is serious. Minnesota has $80 billion in pension liabilities and $60 billion in assets to pay those promises. So we are 75% funded. And some people may think that's adequate, but let me tell you, it's not. The old way of thinking no longer applies with our population aging and people living longer. We have to provide the funds now instead of kicking the can down the road. Nationally, pensions account for 4.6% of all state and local government expenditures. In Minnesota, we spend only 2.3% of all expenditures on pensions. We've gotten by on the cheap, but this can't go on. We are now perilously close to states who have avoided addressing their pension problems. We can no longer keep our heads in the sand. If we don't act now, we can slip into the problems that states like New Jersey and Illinois face. Fortunately, we can fix this, and that's what this bill does. Just a review of what Senator Rosen said about 2620. It provides a $6 million reduction in current and future pension costs by lowering COLAs to retirees, smaller benefits for active workers, and increases in employee contributions. It provides $2 billion in direct state aid over 30 years, so Minnesota keeps the promises made to their employees and retired workers and assists school districts, cities, and counties in meeting their obligations. But this legislation has $3 in cuts for every $1 in state aid, a great deal for the state. The bill lowers the assumed rate of investment return to 7.5% for all pension plans, bringing Minnesota in line with the average of all public pension plans in the country. Credit rating agencies will see the state and local governments are managing an issue that has caused great fiscal concern and even crises in other states. School districts in the state will see an aggregate reduction of $3.2 billion in pension liabilities. The state of Minnesota will see a reduction of over $2 billion in its pension liabilities. And cities and counties will see a collective reduction of $800 million in pension liabilities. This legislation is supported by all the groups representing public employees and public employers. There are 25 public employee unions and organizations that support the legislation, the 4 pension fund boards of trustees who have a fiduciary duty to act in the best interest of the members and state taxpayers, the League of Minnesota Cities, the Association of Minnesota Counties, Minnesota Intergovernmental Association, the Minnesota School Districts Association, as well as other employer groups. And it is supported by MMB and by the governor. This is bipartisan legislation to ensure the sustainability of public pensions and to enhance the fiscal stability of the state of Minnesota and all of its public subdivisions. I strongly urge your support for Senator Rosen's bill. Thank you.
Further discussion, Senator Friends.
Thank you very much, Madam President, and I rise in full support of Senate File 2620. Just briefly, Madam President, when we treat our state workers better, we will get better state workers. This is passed out of the Senate and House previously, but hits here now with a 14-0 vote. And ask yourself, the people that work for us, what message do we want to send them? I ask members to vote yes on this bill to send a simple message. Minnesota is a great place to be a state employee. I won't list all the people that work in our districts and our various state, but I would just say they are all watching. Let's send a unanimous vote out of the Senate and send a note to the people of Minnesota that we care about the workers that work for us, and we want to keep our promises to them for a long, long time. Thank you, Madam President.
Secretary will give Senate File 2620 its third reading.
Senate File Number 2620, a bill for an act relating to retirement.
Third reading. Final discussion on Senate File 2620. Senator Senchum.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to rise quickly and express my thanks as a member of the commission to the leadership of Senator Rosen on this. This is not easy work, and she led our commission, I think, extremely well this year, and I almost sat in disbelief as group after group after group came to the witness table expressing support for this bill. It's a great bill. It's a great piece of work on behalf of the Commission, which had great leadership under Senator Rosen. So, Senator Rosen, thank you very much. I think the entire Senate is indebted to your efforts, and we certainly appreciate them.
Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I also rise in support of Senate File 2620 and want to thank Senator Rosen and all my counterparts that worked on the Pension Commission. As a freshman senator, I learned a lot. When I came into the Senate, I was a fan of a defined contribution plan versus a defined benefit plan. And as I learned through the many months of through the pensions, that without this bill, we wouldn't even have the option to look at a defined contribution plan. So this gives us options in the future. I think it's important, as Senator Friend said, to support our state employees and show them we value not only their employment, but their retirement. So again, I want to say thank you to all the people involved, and I enjoyed sitting on the Pension Commission with all my fellow senators. Thank you.
Further discussion on Senate File 2620. Secretary will take the roll on Senate File 2620. All those senators having voted who desire to vote, the Secretary will close the roll. There being 66 ayes and no nays, the bill is passed and its title agreed to. Next item designated on special orders is Senate File 3154. Senator Miller.
Thank you, Madam President and members. Senate File 3154 ratifies labor contracts and compensation plans for state employees. This bill includes 10 contracts. There are 3 that are not included in this bill because they have not been agreed to yet. Those 3 remaining contracts include Minnesota Law Enforcement Association, Minnesota State College faculty, and Minnesota State University admin and service faculty. The collective bargaining agreements and compensation plans for the executive branch have a consistent 2% salary increase effective July 1st, 2017, and a 2.25% salary increase effective July 1st, 2018. Additionally, annual merit-based increases for eligible employees vary between 2.75% and 3.5%. And members, on average, about half of the state employees are eligible for those step increases. Also included in this language is inter-faculty organization contracts, or otherwise known as the IFO contracts at Minnesota State. These include a 1.6% increase across the board effective July 1st, 2017, and a 2.4% increase effective July 1st, 2018. Minnesota Management and Budget estimates that the increased cost of all collective bargaining agreements and plans will be 3.37% this biennium and 4.71% in the next biennium. Minnesota Management and Budget also testified to the Subcommittee on Employee Relations that agencies can pay for these salary increases within their current appropriation. Members, I'd like to thank all the members that were on the subcommittee on employee relations and all the staff that were involved with this work, especially those from the Legislative Coordinating Commission. And I also want to thank all of our good, hardworking state employees for what they do on behalf of all of us and the people of the state of Minnesota. Members, this completes my overview on Senate File 3154, and I ask for your support.
Further discussion on Senate File 3154. Secretary will give Senate File 3154 its third reading.
Senate File Number 3154, Bill for an Act relating to state government ratifying certain labor agreements and compensation plans.
Third reading. Further discussion, Senator Simonson.
Thank you, Madam President and members. Senate File 3154, I want to thank Senator Miller for bringing this bill forward. This has been a long process. I had the opportunity to sit on the subcommittee on employer relations, and we have had some challenging meetings, but we have had some good discussions also. And I think the key point that we want to point out here, as Senator Miller referenced, is that our agencies, our commissioners that we depend on to run their individual agencies, have committed to absorbing the costs of some of these increases within their existing budgets that we approved last year during last year's session. And I think these contracts were fairly negotiated. They were negotiated in good faith, and they represent hard work between our employees and our employers. But essentially, we are the employers of these state employees. And I think it's important that we recognize that the day in and day out work that these men and women do oftentimes goes unrecognized. And it is the very least that we can do is ratify these contracts and get them on their way. And appreciate Senator Miller's commitment and the willingness to get these through without politicizing it. Thank you.
Senator Benson.
Thank you, Madam President. As a member of the Subcommittee on Employee Relations since 2011, one of my great disappointments of this administration is their inflexibility in response to critical workforce needs. For example, Minute is under incredible strain. We have a new commissioner who is going to try to reform a non-functioning department. And there's nothing in these contracts that gives her the flexibility to recruit and retain talent that will be essential to make Minute work. We face a similar challenge with our law enforcement contract currently under negotiation. Because of pattern bargaining and pattern agreements, our troopers are backsliding compared to other law enforcement departments with comparable responsibilities. And so it's because of these two disappointments primarily that I will not be supporting these bills today.
Further discussion on Senate File 3154. Secretary will take the roll on Senate File 3154. All those senators having voted who desire to vote, the Secretary will close the roll. There being 56 ayes and 10 nays, the bill is passed and its title agreed to. Remaining under motions and resolution, there is a motion to be read by the Secretary.
Senator Gazelka moves that his name be stricken as co-author of Senate File Number 3319.
On that motion, all in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The motion is adopted. Moving to the 13th order of business, announcements of Senate interest. The following members will be excused without objection. Senator Bach will be excused without objection for the entire session. Further announcements of Senate interest. Senator Gazelka.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the Senate do now adjourn until Tuesday, March 27th at 12:15 p.m.
On that motion, all in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. We are adjourned.